Diminishes growth is terminally unsustainable. The combined effect of ecological disasters, overall defense, causes extinction and necessity pan-down scaling. Albert 20. Post-growth necessary to prevent climate change. Book of evidence favor degrowth prevention, strengthening ecological tipping points. Optimists have an industrial revolution. There's uncertainty problem for cap in context of Earth system crisis, growth for the ecological regeneration impacts, deforestation, biodiversity, soil and water pollution, decoupling, ignore imported goods, analysis, dependent inputs, and decoupling trends show no evidence, and more sufficiency with recoupling, most optimistic fail rebound effect lead to increased consumption. Need to occur faster studies suggest it will be impossible to move 1.5 the target in context of growth. Other boundaries may be overshot. Absolutely decoupling, staggering novelty. Warming causes extinction, feedback loops, and tipping points. Overwhelm defense. Chem 22 climate is existential global catastrophe, temporize, exceeds targets, self-amplifying changes, make it impossible to limit health risks, worsen food, extreme heat, ecosystem, extreme weather transitions, all conditions are very high, large irreversible changes, ice sheet loss, typical feedback loops, beyond the climate cascade, conflict, disease, political change, novel outbreaks, financial crises, collapse of societies, wars over SRM, inequality, misinfo weapons, and overshoot shocks, slow repairs and volcanoes, follow-on effects, inflame all other threats, flip growth to black swans, and force engineering arms races, subcool 22 impacts on security, challenging, prolific terror, economic damages with trillions per year, deteriorating security and health, aggravate water and food insecurity, disease, epidemics, starvations that multiply risk, climate technologies, and next climate, geoengineering options, avoid coordinated actions when geoengineering by time for mitigation, extinction, environmental effects, and nuclear war. Bans are impossible. Silver core 22 weaponization and hostile development. Road to conflict, deployment costs, dead zones, effective food supply governments cannot be trusted to act, defo, water security, past dirty and cheap weapons. There's little governance can do to stop it. No mechanism to deal with conflict. UN and Common Convention to weak with no buying power and mod forbids modification, but it's unlikely to stop if you're going to suffer from climate. You have all chance, you don't want care. Authoritarian states are unlikely to worry about repercussions. Indians, Russians, Chinese, North Korea, Russia spraying aerosols and Arctic US response carbon capture, lose capacity for development, aggravate stress, spillover impacts on the geopolitical hostile miscalculated averted third world war, India, Pakistan conflict, arms race. In proxy wars, we'll see military conflict countries being adversaries. Independently, corporate dominance cannibalizes regulation, ensuring catastrophic tax barrels out of hand. Albert 20 tech provokes systemic data to cause to expand green economy, accelerate these, creating backslide. Intensify cyber threats, new vulnerabilities in infrastructure, incipient IoT key value to semi-device point, entry the overall network from states, criminal orgs, or terrorists, software elements, powerful surveillance, and militarization includes nanobots, powerful cabin, nuke weapons, informational omniscience, becoming extensive and intensive and relied on to achieve decoupling, generate insecurity, securitization, global north, make military violence likely, create violent cyber attacks, catalyze, intensify securitization, military absolute speed and reach through space and AI, globalize without the ego pretext being tried, making authoritarian global security apparatus reinforces. Need for breaking growth on tail and banning tech rather than private sectors, initiatives to enhance democratic control post growth based on Commonwealth created a global economy that meets human needs within planetary boundaries without ecological collapse, civilizational breakdown of global techno-authoritarianism, AI causes extinction, China 2045 onwards, far rapidly it's possible for humanity to control clarity what happened. SI represents most dangerous is certain on epidemics happened earlier than climate catastrophe. In next year, started in century friendly second roost, other risks, misalignment, disasters, homicide, atoms, biosphere, impossible to provide comprehensive outcomes, SI prevent dangers and predicting most difficult risk trade pianity into eternal grave. The US goes over, CAT 18 meters in AI are the US systems mirror predictions of American races led by American companies that foremost American corporate agenda fit the rest of the world. It drives zoonotic disease, oral huge economic damages, 70% of pathogens are zoonotic, being consumed per person. Doubled up stocks by pathogens, present meet demand while markets trade coming change deforestation, test of farming, spend and pandemic 60% of forests have managed pathogens can mutate quickly, which would be dangerous to lack of immunity with attack pandemics and shape environmental sustainable disease. Cause extinction, Marquez 20. Food drove loss of tree concentrations, sacrificing oceans, decline of biodiversity to extinction. Geopolitical tensions are seen with conflicts on water and energy resources, nuclear war crises are interlinked. Synergy existential risks is made from conjunction that do not threaten humanity but particularly to pandemic turn attention away from society will be frozen, keeping it from reacting to above crises, the necessity to the chain of factors, leading across different points to a world completely uninhabitable by humans, growth, bankrolls, militarism, and creates misperceptions that lead to more harm, growth lead to increased military defense spending, distortions may pay for new or continued military engagements that dissuade nations may be able to engage more conflict expansion, builds confidence to the point where if you're invincible, expansion increases base, trade, cheap, and war, ignites nuclear escalation, and exclude hotspots. How 22 hours from China and Tesla supremacy into dependence, locked in a competitive relationship, nukes the ultimate expression, no code, neighbor to Japan, so code, and Taiwan go nuclear overnight, even with Biden, there's no security. Asia under burden, competition, resources, crisis, war, tensions are high in Asia, SES are about trade tensions between Japan and SoCo, China and US, Russia and EU have been implemented companies to trade markets. Canada many attempts to corrupt lesser powers, competition dependence on US econ, and the Chinese and Russia attain investment countries to motivation of security could lead to insecurity, extinction, deterrence theory, and revisionism on false. Foster 23 fear losing hedge the US secret domination resulting in dangers for humanity, new Cold War projection in Asia, preventing tech AUKUS and NATO, the US has an overwhelming advantage. Tech ministers suspending their forced projection in nuke war, total annihilation, pointed to a third world peace will have to be sustainable development. Global fragmentation and future crises make economic crash inevitable. Toshiba 23 corporations in retreat. The world is witnessing fragmentation, national security consideration, job losses, and inequality, fuel protectionism. Another pandemic can push the world into crisis, military conflict could add to some markets and come introducing shocks, but that is putting sustainability at risk. Fragmentation could reduce GDP by 7% in 2019. Countries to post 1,000 restrictions on trade. In 2022, 3,000 fragmentation could interrupt markets and create food and energy insecurity. The United States federal government should adopt the federal jobs guarantee financed by fiscal policies designed to facilitate degrowth. A degrowth job guarantee is crucial should shift the social fabric of society, reducing production and consumption. U2 20 volunteering downshifting not valuable without a change to lives on precarity, have no choice to trade money for time. Changing becomes a prerequisite to its provision of economic security. DGJ to reduce productivity if implemented as a 30-hour work week. Work week will help to retain JG workers so JG can relocalize the economy. This means local work, reduce commutes and energy consumption. Care work is a visible change between a commitment care such as placing choices can put elderly and serving as a companion. Sharing offers potential to reduce our production, consumption, and demand. JG may catalyze the sharing economy. The guarantee prioritizes ecological practices. HICO 21 to keep warming under 1.5 nations need to cut emissions by 10% per year. Progressive job guarantee. When that unemployment and ensure livelihoods, having the immediate crisis, we need to ramp up renewable energy. We need to restore the greater ecosystems, plan public transportation, and shift to regenerative farming by paying living wage. We cannot implement anti-poverty. This will strengthen the bargaining power of labour and reduce inequality. We find it difficult to close down coal mines because of employment. This is why governments bail oil companies and realize to mass layoffs. The degrowth job guarantee supplants the private sector. HICO 20 people have access to job guarantee, to use work, and have access to high quality services. Then why on earth would they ever agree to do unnecessary or degrading labour for private firms? Job guarantee is vital to constrain downsides to degrowth transitions. Mazzucato and Skierowski 20, there will be no guarantee against resumption of financial orthodoxy. Time to establish a job guarantee to ensure human capital is then a waste nor eroded attention direction of growth, hitting the playing field coordinated projects that will just drive private investment, yield a bigger bang, increase negative multiplier, downturn, increasing more positive multipliers of any upturn, smooth transition. Require public sector job program to generate sustainable tax rates, accounting and activity fully employed, augments the wider community under or unemployed, have less income to drive demand, to preserve input stability, stabilize acts to reduce fluctuations, public employment, constitute power counter-cyclical stabilizer, aligning a job guarantee with progressive fiscal policy locks in degrowth events 21, the importance of fiscal policy and the tax system for promoting the environment, the architecture of past union forces, unsustainability, systemic change must be talking about a changing tax system. A tax can reflect all externalities, weighting is not an option. That income tax, corporate tax will be reshaped to promote transition. We must do away with subsidies and tax benefits and favor sustainable activities. This will substantially and progressively increase the tax rates. Degrowth taxes shape access. Jackson has there's clearly some role for an effective state. In establishing ecological limits, uses power to tax stabilize cycles to for employment and championship the logic of consumerism, where governments has a huge influence on inflation, flat tech and employment policy shapes and co-creates the social world. US degrowth goes global. Lockman 2021. US economy sneezes, the rest of the world catches pneumonia at the best times. And these effectively has major implications for the rest of the global economy, but these are far from best, especially since the Chinese is confronted with a host of challenges. Degrowth at home opens possibility for economic diplomacy abroad. Media 21 foreign policy will look at with the socialist White House. The main weapon American socialist has been the Treasury. The US expresses the power by allowing them access to the economy loans that forgiveness, tax savings, currency inflation. Effect absent left and community aid contingent on redistributed for general environment. Carbon taxes alone encourage punishment to place sustainable policy, transmission home build for more legitimacy of its economy. The US increases the ability to munch diplomatic pressure.
You good?
Market cut pressure.
Good.
Yeah.
The plan says fiscal policies to facilitate degrowth. What are those fiscal policies?
The most likely ones, as outlined by Jackson and Vance, are carbon taxes, wealth taxes, exit taxes, corporate taxes, and these would all be progressive.
Okay, and how does that facilitate global degrowth?
We have a couple of different reasons for why it would facilitate global degrowth. First is that America's economy is intertwined with the rest of the world. The Lockman and media evidence indicates that the economies are interlinked, so if America's economy slows down.
Lockman though is about like economic shocks, right? You'd agree?
No, it's about any downturn in America.
Yeah, okay, like not like a plan, like the job guarantee. What ev do you have that assumes that as the mechanism for degrowing the economy, going global?
The cards about slowdowns, forcing a transition do apply to a planned degrowth, because all of it is about why America's economy is trading less, spending less, buying less from other countries.
To be clear, Lockman is about like U.S. economic like quick shocks. And
no,
like,
it's not. It says when America's economy sneezes.
Okay,
that includes,
that's a metaphor for like economic shocks.
Like a permanent transition that slows down growth would obviously have the same or even a bigger impact than a
But to be
shock
clear, you have
to the
no
economy.
evidence about that transition that the app does to degrowth.
About a
Going
job
global.
guarantee being necessary?
Or-
Yes, we've read plenty of cards about a job guarantee.
Okay, Jackson, that you've tagged as degrowth taxes shape mindsets. What part of the card do you think says degrowth?
And it doesn't say the word degrowth, but it's all about how the taxes that the plan creates would stabilize cycles, achieve full employment. It's about taxes that shape.
It's about like job guarantees helping with full employment. What about that means like a degrowth job guarantee, which you said like.
The Jackson evidence is about shifting the logic of consumerism. It's about changing the way we approach infrastructure, tech, and lifestyle. That sounds like a degrowth policy.
Okay, how does the app then force like lifestyle changes like other countries giving up air conditioning?
All of it comes through the taxes and the job guarantee. When America's economy slows down, it forces other countries to slow down as well. We've also read cards that say that other countries would follow on, adopt the same kinds of job guarantee policies and the same kinds of taxes.
Okay, the Solvacool evidence talks about existing tech like CCS and warming mitigation technology. How does the app stop that tech that's already been developed from causing war?
Those technologies have not been deployed in a manner large enough to cause war or have not reached.
But they are existent, and those technologies are the ones that would cause war.
At low levels, but those are not altering.
What is the threshold then? Like, how many CCS plants do we need?
It's not how many; it's the effect that those have on the climate. And the Solvacool evidence indicates that in the near future, China, Russia, America would develop the capabilities to weaponize it and use it in war. It's about arms racing in these technologies, which the plan will get rid of.
Center cross 6 off degrowth and transition. Peninsula? Panel? Yeah.
T-tax and interpretation of fiscal redistribution changes the distribution of income through progressive income taxes and transfers. Option 3.1. Redistribution refers to policies that influence distribution of income. Fiscal policies that means directing redistribution fiscal policies in the form of tax inversion and income higher rates in the poor and spending on distribution benefit the poor more. Redistribution function is distribution old age adverse events. Violation of plan includes a carbon tax which is not directly on income. Vote 1. Limits are to topic to include revenue from any source of taxation, carbon, data, financial transactions. Literally any activity can be taxed, each of which could be their own topic to ground, including non-income taxes, rapidly inflation, ground by creating advantages based off discouraging the object of the tax. That's disconnected from core objections to redistribution which focus on income. Exclusively federalism. A job guarantee violates the stability decision durable fiat means the plan overrules it. Hopping 22. Emissions helps the agencies design projects at FG and administrate the ideal oversight offices watching how they get the authority to design projects give bureaucrats states often optional enrollment disparities by the violating and NFIB surveillance the fundamental appeal to states to administer the federal government overturn eviscerates federalism and spills over Rift Canal 12. Supplies with state and extension of Medicaid and municipally goes to states and extension of upholding and imposing the states by threatening the NFIB separate holdings amount of federalism process symbolic when the extension was because of the head even if NFIB events the line federalism these holds this all important line to know Congress directly individually open new potentially vast mandate congressional authority allowing Congress to legislate federal regulation House systems to federal issues that the federal government to go beyond except federal part of virtually everything that's impermissible. Federalist innovation is key to adapt ossified international structures to evolving existential risk. We 22. Technical world disaster from the climate, nuclear war, pandemic speeds, control those already the partners we need innovation on the remaining institution bond over from state local governments directly from public pressure, public opinion, after individuals need those foundation that lead to nuclear war control AI charges, showing rigorous institutions from the bottom up, codes norms, as to be the way to form legislation to take government scope on force across where worse to deal with issues in national government, so the string of state cooperation where binding obligations were cumbersome, slow, and impractical states. The 50 states and relevant territories should establish an interstate compact agreement to abolish balanced budget requirements, create reserve bank systems, adopt a jobs guarantee, finance by fiscal policies, designed to facilitate degrowth, interstate agreements, solve economic inequality and avoiding federal slap punch with 2 CF, Michael's Tower 23. Interstate agreements can bring community configuration, possible system competition, and share market for labor. Interstate governments create an image of structure, slap punch, impose disrupting regulatory process, interstate emission, more expert democratic legitimate, conduct reform proposals that do call for the federal level, enslaved operative officers, interstate bodies that give court agency, car stats, against permissions, superior administration, basic federal pathways, improve economic system, and against race to the bottom, the guy comes cross-border economy to scale, pulling the risk of economic downturn. Assurance. Recent U.S. commitment to South Korea defends the space proliferation now, but the continued nuclear assurance is key. On 23. Washington declaration always obstructing the extent of deterrence of SOCO, NCG, and follow nuclear planning, SOCO, and national reliance on use, and nuclear for government to NPT, declaration of chemical develop nuclear bombs, and U.S. coordination that NCG, relief, Korea, concerns supplies display of U.S. defense commitment, union officer, nuclear conquering U.S. security, reinforced nuclear umbrella, requires continued assurance that SOCO is in U.S. interest, and degrowth / extended nuclear deterrence. Burden 23. Degrowth military degrowth, the reduction of protection, be hard to transfer national defense, comes from non-offensive defense, and incompatible with nukes, MADs, deterrence, effect on the office, includes nuclear bombs to apply degrowth to the military, so come to the budget to have funding of use of mind, also pollution abandoned the military must not be replaced. South Korea prolog causes nuclear war. Sukin 21. So code needs to be no more dangerous. Prolog can be no code offshore first state greater size. So can be military operations. Escalation restrictions. Usually pressures. No code respond to the social sensors. The longer guards. A dynamic service. Escalation ladder. Aviation times. Be aviation times. Juris short aim is common would be nuclear use more accessible. Juries. The United States government should delegate to randomly selected assistant oversight juries the authority to make final binding determinations on policy regarding the adoption of federal job guarantee financed by fiscal policy signed up so like degrowth, including the permissibility of individual distributed exceptions in adversarial proceedings, featuring evidentiary presentations by unbiased expert witnesses as more in the case made by each side, delegating specific narrow policy questions to the jury, solves the case, and demonstrates an effective model for participatory governance, which spills over broadly. Shall send it back 19. Any context where the drill this plans to add the capture and illustrative agenda standards for wherever since it's the power to hold governments accountable to juries, manipulation, oversight juries, and power to discriminate over decisions, so meaningful check on certain juries set the agenda. Just want to handle the screen, question and tell adversarial format, sure, just want to reach the final stage of the detailed experimentation, not guarantees time for building the agenda. The U.S. has potential for broad appeal. System is going to be the concentrated wealth and participatory governance reforms necessary to address a slew of existential risks. And Land 22. Warren pandemic migration expert resources, ethnic data questions, external question about how governance configuration to the world forward, to active all practices, sustainable democratic ways of handling risk. Degrowth. Growth sustainable right 20. Markets are wrong. People population bomb. Not only happen to text shortages, shortage trust and like if you're must I use to be a new ways of my final word, but I use kind of go because social education more getting more from less. Degrowth relies on terrible metrics and is politically unfeasible. To estimate 23. Degrowth is not public car into sacrifice. Degrowth basically substitute reuse of resources and aggregate a terrible metric. Materials that are recycled this and leave according to their own resource substitution. Humans only look for ways to substitute one of those scarce. We find same mistakes trying to establish. There's no reason to believe correlation will continue. Countries that decouple great decouple respond to the same global insurance drop. This nonsense absolutely coming as possible. National country outsourcing does not happen. McKibben says warming would cause mass mortality, not extinction, and no climate impact. Buckland to Buckland 23. Such remain unsettled later. Climate would be opposition to high temperature, no more carbon than 1930 minutes. Cause decrease. Impact would be hard catastrophic. Catastrophe. Climate stability. Freeze evidence. Extreme externals. Production soils reliable. Warming soil. No climate change is dangerous. Whether deaths of declining number of periods are not threatened by ice sheets growing. Sea levels rise at the same time. The oceans remain alkaline. Marine life adapts well. No evidence of species die also extinction. And so called military conflict at worst, not that it would escalate. Mutual assured destruction. Checks geoengineering war. And no AI risk. Time safeguards longer term lengths. And downside is fake. Rejected by consensus from 21. AS Islamic is getting solid, can maybe strong evidence on the extra example, so the exponential growth of the defense is about pure exponential, their false and argument never find AI, almost no AI expert agrees that the threat is super intelligent, AI plus me, never test way can others, let alone the general sense, the most powerful, can solve math, understand context or cause and effect, AI less mind sensitive reasoning and bias so far, it must always anything complex or general, and pandemics do not cause extinction. Product 20. High fatality, Ebola, where there's fatality, systemic outside of Africa, unlikely death, 9% extinction, more likely unlikely to consider pathogen in peril, war pathogen have long time incubation time, so person can infect, survive in water temperatures and dangerous to a range of ages and deep pathogens, 99% fatality, easy to quarantine, and the Han evidence, no war chest as Zitterlin 23. A cap reduced the balance of concrete before economies versus had economies versus power and secure materials that played a role today. Neither size nor raw material matter resources can be made more easily through commerce, and the Han evidence is about Africa doesn't have a single nuke, highlighting it sort of for reference. Transition. Using the task code to enforce degrowth is impossible. Firms will cheat, bureaucrats will fail. Suda 21. Degrowth regime measuring output throughput in GDP has a target has what plans to look like. The regime will coordinate remediation of unemployment optimal throughout associated official environmental tolerable and pressure expansion and shutdown local growth and contracted aggregate the tax code input penalty of firm or post code firms employ public interest qualified license to grow have the account for all major processes carries allocate to business just to wind down some suggest steel and cement face up body resistant from low income household trade should be common for something going to determining a benefits on calling destructive ones and complexity stymies administrators too much information to shift through and it's unreliable. So easy 12. We maximize all goods, and services. Planners have virtually need complete knowledge of complete knowledge of particular capacities for all students. Segregate all goods with anything else substitutable different parts of different thing to be taken into account. The numbers are all smooth helps to do crude and useful for you. How you want to take information. Distortion. People straight up lie. No good way of dealing with this. And no international follow-on. Lauren 22. Governments are little hurt to go to hard to see how state to private growth could be. Growth could ensure the distributed cut is unfair to go to ignore the urge for status. Back to anarchy. The one EC invests itself for a resolution of our generalized social question of the sovereign state. This found on all guarantees war, environmental destruction, climate change, and extinction, vote for autonomous collective organizing, and a politics of questions that refuses answers given by the state. Holly 21. Within the failed system, result of conditions, top diversity, pandemics, warming, these types of money, measure of value, inequality, fascism, no society states, human shapes, trying to get here. The social answer to the state, state poverty. It's not what the state is not counter to capital. The state is generated by capital. The state is obliged to pro-accumulation. State democracy is executed by assume responsibility. They assume responsibility to take it away from us. Russell will have extra time. Politicians are talking of radical change, but at no place to establish it's not hard to think that states where answers can lie, give up material, non-go to anarchy, states and answer be doing question because extinction never exists before politics questions. Isn't for politics for answers asking the creation of a different society being empty to distract councils with the millions of organized on an anti-hierarchical basis. Not true. The states only give out these factors. Also collectively resistance will be our fault if we not take back from the state responsibility for life. Calamity K. Extinction impact justified genocide and interpersonal causes vote negative to reject the plan's naive attempt to permanently contain extraterrestrials. 21. Extraterrestrials that bar critically high, so mass human should not code extraterrestrial classification system genocide with wars enslavement code, not return existential terms, violent events of question of past personal existential, unstructured images, causes system bar. Do item useful, this model ignores evidence of suffering on groups of extraterrestrials that say this violence will be endurable, exercise suffering on other people, genocide plans will be violence, stop that humans can commit such act in case that nothing, press humans would other treat each other, logical genocide, qualifies the extinction comes to the mimic the human condition, though people system with everyone issue violence. Tosin is called extraterrestrial once for all institute control or quality or genocide blown terrible institution, materials in common is firing the law for focus mitigate vulnerabilities of the human. I'll set it. It's sound.
Alright. I'm good for class X. Okay. The Korean political impact card. The card says, quote, already joint U.S.-South Korean military exercises, which Pyongyang caused exercises for nuclear war, prompted North Korea to rhetoric provocations and missile tests. Why are these exercises not caused?
They're not. The on evidence is newer, cites newer declarations from the Biden administration, citing nuclear posture as the core internal link to the relationship
so
with
the
South
Sukin
Korea.
evidence says that when America engages with South Korea, that pisses off North Korea.
No,
The
no,
on
no,
evidence
the
says that
Sukin
engagement
evidence
is
says
further
that
than
risk
Korea.
only happens when South Korea proliferates, which causes North Korea to engage in aggression. That's the internal link chain. The internal link chain to South Korea being
Okay, let's
confident
talk about
is
the on
U.S.
evidence.
nuclear posture.
It says that there are regional ramifications of enhanced U.S.-South Korean nuclear cooperation, namely the potential increase in North Korean provocations and strains on South Korea's ties with China and Russia. Seems like it's an off card.
No, there's a risk now. We don't disagree with that. We think the risk is only worse in a world in which South Korea actually proliferates. Like, yes, North Korea doesn't like South Korea doing anything with anyone, but the world in which South Korea gains nuclear weapons is objectively worse.
Okay, where does on say that Korea has the means of proliferating?
One, we think it's a question of perception. The idea that they're proliferating already causes North Korean lash out in a regional war. Secondly, we can read more evidence once you read the card.
The link, this Burton evidence describes applying degrowth to the military. The plan and the resolution is only about fiscal redistribution and about the economics.
If you're going to say you don't change the military at all, you certainly don't solve climate or like any of your extraction stuff.
Why not?
If you
The military is a drop in a bucket compared to the rest of America's industries.
yeah, you can go for that argument if you want. That's just wrong. The military is one of the biggest polluters. If you don't degrow them, you do nothing.
Okay,
That
but there's
means
no normal. This card does not describe the normal needs of the plan.
It describes what coherent degrowth policy has to
It
look like.
describes.
You're free to go for that.
No,
That's
like
what they are. I
the first
encourage
line is how can degrowth principles be applied to the military?
the
The
card
plan
is
has no fiat mandate.
this is from a degrowther saying that degrowth applied to the military
like
would be key to stop pollution and do a litany of other things.
Okay. What's the status?
Status quo is also a logical option.
All right. The card about taxes. The Suda evidence is about how firms can prove that, can qualify for a license to grow. What part of this evidence assumes the kinds of taxes the plan creates, which are just taxes on any carbon emissions or taxes
Well,
on
that's kind of
any
the point.
economic output?
Either you tax so much that no firms can produce at all, which won't be sustained, or obviously firms have to grow a little. Your
No,
HIPAA
no.
evidence agrees
Like the
with that.
Suda evidence doesn't assume a job guarantee. It assumes
The
firms
Suda
don't
evidence
exist.
is about
The
taxes on
would
firms.
the plan would make firms not exist through those taxes, and the job guarantee would provide
Well,
jobs.
okay, if you get rid of every single firm, you produce no goods, and the Shalizi
The
evidence
job
is the
guarantee
government
produces
cannot
good.
maintain production
That's
of
what
every
the
single
job guarantee is for. What part of
and
this card
that
assumes
fails.
the job
If you
guarantee?
get rid of every firm, you don't have production in the short term. That's what the Shalizi evidence is about.
I think this- 5 seconds.
The order is degrowth, transition,
anarchy critique. Other critique. Family critique. Process counterplan. States counterplan. Federalism design. Assurance design. Is everyone good? Sustainability author is laughable. It does not respond to absolute decoupling trends, which show that climate change is increasing, and it only cites a few examples like the iPhone, which does not show that climate change is not coming now. The degrowth is not infeasible. Our evidence says that a job guarantee provides high quality of life, which means that there's popular support for the plan, and it can generate follow-on. They say there's no climate change impact, but it's fossil fuel propaganda, and the author quotes are obviously unscientific. Climate change causes extinction, food disease, ice sheet loss, and tipping points. Turns out this had dropped. Climate drives strife and nuclear war. They say Soviet doesn't go nuclear, but Soviet says that nuclear war will occur because geoengineering causes World War III with Russia, China, and every other adversary. They say that. Wait, what is the next argument? What were you on? Is that AI? Oh, AI impact defense. AI is a black box which makes it unpredictable and existential. It'll eat the biosphere. The evidence is outdated. Disease impact defense is unresponsive. It does not assume zoonotic diseases which are able to overcome the transmissibility, virulence trade-off, and will cause extinction. They say no war chest, and it's about Africa. But our evidence says that more broadly, growth is correlated with conflict, and that reducing that is able to solve the chance of conflict. They've also independently conceded external impacts like the U.S.-Russia war, which causes extinction. Transition. Taxes do solve because the evidence is not about full-blown degrowth-oriented taxes, but ones that still allow growth to continue. Our evidence says that we would tax away all profit, which makes it impossible for any corporations to exist, and job guarantee would take over all of that. They say complexity. 1, there's no impact to complexity. 2, fiat solves. 3, our evidence says that the job guarantee is able to be enforced in a way that practices social and ecological good, and that it is able to calculate information to do so successfully. They say no global follow-on, but their warrant does not respond to exit taxes, and it does not respond to things like sanctions and others which force other countries to follow. Additionally, our economies are interlocked, so if the US slows down, other countries will too. They've independently conceded that growth is unsustainable, that global economic crash is coming now, which means that it's trial or die. Affirmative. T. 1. Counter to fishery redistribution is the process of moving resources from one group to another via taxes and transfers. 12. To achieve fishery redistribution, government collects taxes and then makes expenditures and transfers to Afghan. Income taxes are indispensable versus taxes pick and states count in 3. Pick solve their offense. 4. Predictability. BASB is not limited to income. Wealth and progressive taxes meet 2. 5. Function limits K. States, economy, and politics solve. 6. Reasonability. Good is good enough. The anarchy critique. 1. Framework. Right after any links to the plan. Anything else is non-resolution which nukes fairness and clash. 2. Condos voter fairness. Deters proliferation of overpowered content. B. Quality of debates discourages offense. Obstructs testing. Causes labor. Dispo solves. 3. Do both. Degrow and revolt. 4. Lean turn. Scales down corporate power and solves sustainability. 5. Impact turn. Absent government involvement. Climate change, disease, AI, and populism are inevitable. 6. All fails. Crackdowns and an unplanned recession cause backlash. That's Masato. Calamity. 1. Do both degrow and reject calamity impacts. 2. They link PerfCon as reason to reject a team its hypocrisy and magnifies violence. 3. Link turn the abstract representations breed empathy and motivation for anti-capitalism. 4. All fails. Death threats are inevitable, but they are good because it is good to try to stop extinction. The process campaign. 1. Delegation campaigns voting issues. DOTF encourages block recycling to get recommend campaigns. 2. Perm to the pan and the campaign over other issues. 4. Perm to the pan and the campaign over policies. 5. Campaigns complete textually and functionally, avoids penniless and solves process campaigns. 6. Citizen juries fail, price to a case, specifically stands on illogical arguments subject to default. Reasoning dilemma between risk taking and effectiveness, even have possible to resolve cases on the question of outcome of pursuit not generalizable and easy relationship with need for universal principles and public reasons. 7. Degrowth is a no-no for American politics, merely 20. American pride is so into consumers, American life is capitalism for America. If capitalism is American, what can be more un-American than socialism? Socialism is incompatible with the US as widespread. Do campaign, do both, do the plan, and do the campaign and then the plan. And there's no spillover. 1 instance is sufficient. Degrowth also solves any of the impacts to the campaign. States. 1. Exemptions of federal law make impacts navigable. Eli 9. The largest subsidies to fossil fuels are tax-based energy subsidies support. How does the use the federal government provide substantial subsidies to fossil fuels? 2. Interstate compact links because it requires federal approval and it gets struck down. 3. Links in that ban. 3. Taxes guarantee preemption. Mitch 17. Congress has power to regulate commerce. Federal preemption taxes. Supreme Court resolved that can be state taxes. Congress not issued boundaries of Congress power. 4. Uniform safety safety laws bad, not real run incentivized spark recycling and destroys Afghanistan. Non-uniform laws. 5. Modeling affects geo-economic power to conduct diplomacy and sanctions is key. That's meaning. 6. Do both shields seen as follow on. 7. The BBA plank fails. 113 states issue debt informed bonds challenges raise concerns on ability to service debt. Rating agencies make look at debt load, increase borrowing costs, make it difficult to attract investors, negatively impacting public services, affect long-term fiscal sustainability. Federalism. 1. No link to federal government employs the workers. Carpenter 20. In order to avoid requirements upon state governments declared unconstitutional civilists, the workers would be employed by the federal government. 2. Impact on local power strengthens neoliberalism. 114. Federalism multiplies the local power, but diversity comes from it. Women seeking to transfer the capital state obscures. Accountability provides elites power for means of dominating minorities, questioning labor and restricting public institutions and social goods. Competitive federalism and compel resisting labor agitation out of fear of capital. 5. Federalism obstructed civil rights. Geographic representation in states eludes the voice of Americans in urban areas. Federalism is consistent with neoliberals. 3. Degrowth turns and solves impacts our vision of governance is more effective. 4. It's non-unique. Unless 22 state and local governments have to play a face that pits blue against red that federal democracy. This would intensify conflict and escalate notification, right to notification. 5. Reject laundriness. No explanation how to solve each of those impacts or how to get to extinction. 6. Hegemony is unsustainable and causes nuclear war strain. 23. The US has overextended and relies on military means to defend interests. The United States is physically very secure and has capability to counter threats. It does not require military force. The transfer system is no longer unipolar. Politicians are employed by inflating the threats by China. This dynamic increases the chance of conflict. Reduce the largest possibility of large-scale nuclear war restraint will buy time to repair damaged order. Hoffman goes affirmative. A federal jobs guarantee avoids laying civilists, only applies if funding is split. Insert a reality. West also goes affirmative. It's an add-on. There's a laundry list of all causes: political capture, lobbying, digital authoritarianism, failing non-political agreements. The article concludes that we need to transition our entire economy away from ecological harmful practices to ban AI and to move beyond quote market power end quote. Insert a reality. The assurance is that. 1. No South Korea prolific hiker 23 building nuclear arsenal cremation national redirection that negatively affects all facets of South Korean life. For decades, South Korea has no inventory of plutonium and uranium and have to repurpose civilian reactors take years, new weapons facilities, testing in new countries and strong domestic opposition, so essential work to integrate warheads into delivery systems, assembly, disassembly, feuding without doing more stringent to anything. 2. Capitalism, imperialism drives proliferation and global dominance, negatively affects proliferation. The US places Iran and North Korea on an axis evil and threatens and gives this country center to acquire and threatening adversaries encourage proliferate. The best way to halt the spread will be to stop the countries. 3. The US maintains military might, meaning 20 to where it says left foreign policy would reduce the US military, the US was protect the environment from climate chauvinists, safe states or enemies of the social democratic global order left hand to be the best military attack. 4. Korea wars are likely. NSC 23 years. C continues to assess that Korea is unlikely to use nukes. Kim cannot achieve goals without using conventional chemical means. We judge it much less likely can use force. 5. No spread and no impact. China 19 bombs stabilizing by risk of proliferation and turn to contribute. The long peace proliferation is rare and robust measures to disrupt the effect of small spread. Unless everyone undertake remain well below weapons efforts span. US 2939 have embarked on acquired owing to attack institutional and managerial challenges. Nations failed. Several undertaken nuclear reversal abandoning activities. Degrowth. Okay. 6. No link that was cross-checked. 7. No uniqueness. South Korea is scared now and impact turn. Cooperation is bad and increases the chance of conflict. Insert a reality. Its stumped cooperation and exercises now should have triggered the impact of cross-checks. It's also uncertain about whether conflict would occur. Insert a reality of Sukin invasion now. Hamas war. Mackenzie 23. Ever since Hamas South Korea have invoked comparisons, Pyongyang could follow a similar pattern. Bioweapon attacks are feasible and cause extinction. Washington deliberate outbreak by engineered pathogen would spread chaos fast and kill quicker than anything. Could evade countermeasures reintroduce again and again and could even wipe us off dependent and extension to an attack may not be difficult. Advances of biotech could rapidly reduce skill and funding needed to gene editing and engineer.
Can you send?
Smart that gene edit and engineer. And Devin will send out this code.
Theoretical reasons.
Conda, PerfCon, delegation, counterplans,
and 50s, uniform 50 CPI.
Okay, I want to go to case. You say that the private sector basically doesn't exist post-job guarantee, correct?
Yeah,
The majority-
taxes.
Sure. The majority of production is currently done by the private sector. How does all of that shift to the public sector? How long does that take?
Job guarantee would scale up really fast because the federal government can instantly just hire all of the workers who are unemployed into the federal system.
So the job guarantee make every single good that we currently use in the economy?
Pretty much, yes.
Everything?
I mean, like you can have your local farm and you can make
Sure,
goods
a local
in your
farm.
backyard.
I want to talk about that. How exactly do you decide what is sustainable and what isn't? Are they like taking information from like firms that now don't exist? Like how do they know?
They look at scientific data, economic data, and they are able to poll citizens and the Americans about how much resources they need, and they're able to look at environmental metrics to see whether it's within planetary boundaries.
Okay, the prolif DA, you say imperialism and capitalism cause prolif. We've had that system for hundreds of years. Why no prolif?
I mean, there has been examples of prolif, and it's when the United States
Well, it hasn't gone nuclear, certainly. It's like, where's the brink? It's been like 30 years. It's
No,
like
the argument
30?
is that it's when the United States acts aggressively that
They
makes
haven't
proliferation
acted
likely.
aggressively before? That's the brink?
We've read evidence from 2023.
Well, I get that, but it's like
Advantage that
capitalism
says that
and
the United
imperialism
States is
are bad. Those have existed. There's just no brink.
No, there is a brink. Iran is
The
trying
date
to
on the
proliferate
card, is
now.
that the brink?
North Korea proliferated. Iraq was trying to get nukes.
Okay, that's fine. The on the sustainability stuff, you had an argument about omitting certain factors, I think, on decoupling. What was that?
Oh, yeah, the right evidence is just not about absolute decoupling. It does not say that absolute decoupling is occurring, which our evidence has as the necessary threshold. And the right evidence just cites a few examples like iPhones and
What's the distinction between
population
regional and
bombs.
absolute decoupling, or relative?
the argument is that you have to prove that even though growth is happening, that we're reducing emissions. Like emissions are actually decreasing from year over year, and that it will be able to come within IPCC boundaries.
Okay. T income taxes, your interpretation, moving of any resources. What asks does this limit out?
Taxes and transfers, you have to defend both. You can always pick out of the taxes component if you don't want to answer that advantage, which means that it does not allow affirmatives
What
to
qualifies as a resource in the economy? Anything?
Yeah, the argument is just taxes and transfers. Like an affirmative has to both has to both create a tax or increase a tax while also transferring money back to the public. That like solves all of your offense because you get the taxes back.
10. Sorry.
Stop prep. 420. I'm second. The order is the assurances decide, transition, degrowth.
Set.
Peninsula, y'all got me?
D height. G.
And we're good. This outweighs 1 magnitude North Korea's fear of first strikes causes all-out abandonment of mutually assured destruction, guaranteeing they hold nothing back. 2 time frame user elusive pressures to compress decision times causing quick escalation. That's 2 can prefer quick impacts. You only die once, and intervening actors check strikes or immediate and drawn in other great powers on. The 23 Korean North only shooters in escalation deep. The arcade is like anticipation, reanimated attack, infancy, exasperation, and damage, misperception. Read 2 powers led to military for China's involvement. They say the hacker evidence it's bad. They says they don't have materials. The point is that they get those after degrowth policy, so this is negative impact uniqueness, but 1 threat magnitude gives them the moral high ground to cushion. Backlash Pardo, 23 soul, which an NPT to penalties and punishments, security, so for the decision might be understandable to this minus the high ground avoid the backlash, create minus the red, the withdrawal establishment will not be part of the case, mitigate the fallout. 2 empirical record is definitive, they'll proliferate. Kim, 23, the guarantees are nuclear rising state, will go nuclear to just not trust us, promise Korea, 98 nuclearization in the 70s, interpreted the doctrine of the US, disengagement Korea's past illustrated, the chip assurance of weakness, and so it's likely to reconsider denuclearization. They say the Mearsheimer evidence, it is our card. 1, it says that Bush era forced democratization and direct threats on preemptive attack, which is not the squad. 2, it concedes that the prolific impact and the nuclear umbrella already effectively deters war. 3, it says that U.S. policy is focused at passive deterrence rather than aggressive threats is good. That's 1, 2, see Mearsheimer retorted for reference. And 4, sustainability, the concession takes it out, aggressive presence is ending. The meaning evidence is about Bernie Sanders, social democracy, not degrowth, and says that it's even too radical to be adopted. We've inserted for reference, and yes, war, the cross life from above strikes are immediate and drawing great powers. Their card is 2 lines long and assumes the squad nuclear umbrella shatters in the app. The shatter evidence is also not responsive. Our impact is about global spread. Isn't about global spread. It's about SOCO prolif causing strikes. The degrowth. They say the no link because cross six is a 1-liner with no warrant, and the 2AC hold the line. But degrowth policy shred nuclear deterrence. 1, diversion. It would shift funds from the nuclear arm of the military toward things like care work. 2, climate nuclear development would and is fossil fuel dependent, which makes degrowth government which means degrowth government would curtail. 3, defense strategy. Degrowth focuses on soft power while abandoning conventional approach to deterrence that South Korea relies on. That's burden. And 4, perceived obsolescence. The nukes are incompatible with degrowth's democratic defense policy. Ainsworth. 21. Nukes and degrowth what it would look like with tools. Maybe with collective participation would use modest tools. The question of WD democratic ownership sees WD is a product of power. Degrowth would be hard with nuclear. And then 5, uranium mining. Say it faces it out. Frank 23. Nuclear technology is not carbon neutral. Uranium mining, fair carbon intention deposits are running down nuclear plants won't really help. There's any kind of role for this social transition is unreasonable. False economy between fossil fuels. Degrowth ready to ramp. What we all consider the nuclear crowd is not what address it. That collapses the nuclear umbrella, standing the 18 nukes and energy will be linked to the process. Not only mining and milling and refining and enrichment used for both reactors necessary for nukes and nuclear power maintains nuclear specific skills and every nuclear capacity. This sustainability does not take out the dissent. The link is into economic decline, but do an active degrowth policy which only the app ensures. They say the plan. They say the normal mean stuff, and that it's not now one. The normal mean stuff that they mentioned in cross-text. 1, this is a disadvantage to degrowth policies that claim that the app puts in place in their plan text. Treat this as a concession of their evidence, meaning is specifically about the socialist foreign policy, which the app, which also isn't specified to the plan. We've inserted for reference the socialists. Then the White House would withdraw all military alliances and outlaw WMD's Socialist Party. 23 recover outlaying WMD's the media cut 50% cut to the military budget followed by reducing budget less than 10% expanding military alliances. 2, challenge flag allowing them to plan offense off of the Socialist foreign party in the 1EC and no linking the turn. It's an offense disaster for next ground force against the prep, entirely different strats based on what the 2AC pivots to. We already have to be reactive to app choice. You should protect us from egregious 2AC reclarification. Anything else is analogous to the app reading a growth impact and integrating TDEV and the 2AC. No linking it because it doesn't. The plan text doesn't say growth. And 3, the plan does specify. It says that aim to facilitate degrowth, which all link evidence says will get rid of nukes. And 4, even if they win the degrowth movement won't successfully denuclearize, it means the movement is too weak to solve the app. The uniqueness argument is the circles assured now. Washington Declaration made a clear statement of intent to defend them with nukes and allayed fears of aggression. Unit explicitly stated that he maintained a nuclear coverage was sufficient to prevent proliferation. That's on. The only check is a wave of blatant proliferators by nodes and is digging in to maintain credibility. Notice 23. Why does Korea have nukes in the stress of the U.S. That is guaranteed defense. Welcoming unit simplifies studies during this partnership. Great profits and divided. Well, to and nuclear ambition and miracles diplomacy. If take partnership quickly bid. The nukes in America with that sort of permanent unit. Visit the coverage trend. Which are out of partnership. There will be highlighting says nothing is still. Then the nukes they've considered the U.S. nuclear umbrella is still existing, which means that even if they have the capacity to do it now, they won't. But it just proves that it takes out their Stoko no prolif capability argument. They say it's some now I answered that above. It just proves the brink. The Hamas argument doesn't matter. It says that they invoked comparisons. That's not a reason why the war would have happened, even if they invoked comparisons, because the Hamas conflict is not actually a war. Transition advantage. Transition is impossible. If we can win if we win that, then they can't possibly solve their impacts, and then they are offense. Triad I is wrong. If the try doesn't work, one contradicting goals, it's impossible to establish what goods are socially beneficial. People in low-income housing like steel and cement, but degrowthers hate it. That matters because everyone you see solvency advocate says that the process would be democratic, guaranteeing inescapable gridlock. 2 mistakes officials don't have to perfect into destructive industries will cheat, and monitoring is impossible. That's SUDA. And 3, knowledge degrowth requires aggregating all social benefits and knowledgeable harms to be effective, which requires unfathomably high amounts of perfect information that no policymaker possesses. Any slip up means they'll either undershoot or the app doesn't solve, or overshoot and doom support for future degrowth. 4 is lying. Destructive industries will straight up lie to degrowth regulators claiming deterrence against pollution. That's surely easy. 5 transition impossible. 5th that 21 degrowth is not either possible whatever anyone said. 20 rejected and poverty to population degrowth. Person to convince the population political suicide demand that accept the living standards and dynamic housing, transportation, medical years not having. And 6 degrowth is gulags. No one is buying it, especially internationally. 20 conditions, everywhere global poverty, refrigeration, air conditioning, and then Wi-Fi, global south is not idealizing poverty, trying to degrowth to the worst famine and the worst famine and degrowth has been a disaster. Even if they degrow in America, they will never convince the rest of the world. They say taxes solve this. This is wrong. We've read evidence specific to their taxes, not it's not broadly. The only answer to our answer to their taxes argument is that ours are not specific to their tax that eliminate all revenue. That's obviously unfeasible in the short term because the people would just say no because we've read evidence that their normal means would have to be democratic degrowth, which wouldn't work. They also international follow-on is a joke. I'll send these cards out after. 1, status of states. Degrowth is key to their power. They won't listen to a plan. That's Laurent. 2, China. Lang in 22. China's become successful productivity and growth. Reflection of starting point efficiencies, but now China catch up. Dividends market reforms the biggest wins is battling the planet economy, moving in new workers that are low productivity jobs. 3, India. Roy. 23, Indian economy needs to grow new range season and liberal growth needed by policymakers to boost India's economy of $5 trillion. India stopped up 4, Japan. Okinawa. 23, Japan's plan to foster economic growth, promoting the employment of high-growth sectors. Productivity. Productivity has become a priority. They say they say the fiat solves this. The fiat definitely doesn't solve people. The people say no because we've read evidence about what normal means. The fiat would mean, and they haven't. They say JG would be enforced. That's wrong because people don't even if they like the JG, they don't like the degrowth the tax policies. They say the interdependence mean every economy collapses. That means the threshold. That means you vote neg on presumption because the threshold is that if economic growth is unsustainable, then if you just collapse economic growth globally, then that means that it solves all the growth impacts. And then when you see they say it's try or die, doesn't matter if it's try or die because the try both fails and causes assurance failure, which causes the decide. Try is worse. Advantage. No warming impact. 1, bad production. Climate modeling is unreliable. 2, complex and variables are too wide-ranging to include extinction. 2, is gradual. Guaranteed adaptation to foreseeable change. That's a bug. The evidence. 3, solar cycle. 25 cats warming at 0.4 degrees Celsius. Dark about 20. The sun is a solar grand minimum.
Minimum?
Yeah. Minimum.
Okay.
I'll send those cards out, by the way.
Is it cool with the timelines for that?
No.
perception argument, which piece of evidence says that merely the perception of proliferation causes North Korean first strike?
Burden.
And where does it say that?
I mean, I can put the card. The card is broadly about the perception of South Korea proliferating, causing because they don't know no country knows for sure whether the other is proliferating. That's the whole point of like perceived first strike and like our ability to second strike and incapacity to that. That's the.
Then why haven't they struck South
Well,
Korea?
yeah, because like there's a bright line. Like there's they don't know for sure, but they can know that there's increased risk of proliferation if they're like engaging in more like.
What does the scenario look like? Is it North Korea first striking South Korea with nukes, or is it a conventional attack? And which speaks to
obviously it might start with conventional, but we think it would definitely draw on great powers and go nuclear.
And wait, which evidence did you say was the perception argument?
Burton.
The link evidence? That's not about South Korea though.
Yeah, no, sorry, the on evidence.
That's the uniqueness one?
If I'm correct. No, it's Burton. Like,
The link evidence?
yeah, I mean, we think it's about the phasing, it's the perception of
No, I'm
U.S.
asking
nuclear
about
umbrella
North Korea
collapse.
invasion impact scenario. Which evidence?
I thought you were asking about like prolif internally.
Yeah, the North Korea invasion stuff.
Okay, well, yeah, the Sukin card is about the terminal impact, which is SOCO prolif causing nuclear
Well, it
war.
seems to suggest it says
First strike.
like it's okay. I also want to ask you about the draw-in scenario.
Mhm.
Which countries got drawn into war?
I mean, we probably don't have to name specific countries. Most likely, it's lists like the OPRK would DPRK would draw in like Russia, China.
Why would
US,
Russia get drawn in?
Why? Because they would.
And which evidence says they get drawn in?
I mean, we think it would draw on U.S. adversaries, which Russia is
Wait,
one.
why?
Why? Because they think that the U.S. nuclear umbrella has declined, and so
Wait, which
the rising
evidence
power
says
of
that?
the proliferating.
So the
yeah.
argument. Wait, what? But like, there's not a card that says this to be the case.
I mean, the Han card says that it would like the temptation to draw into the major great power war that happens between SOCO and NOCO would allow like any great power that thinks that it like there's stakes to this to enter.
It says China.
Yeah, China is the example that gives.
And would the United States also be drawn in?
Probably. Yeah, it says like continental U.S. would have a heightened temptation to enter the war.
The answer to impact defense, you've read evidence that says that Korea might have the political interest to do so. Where have you read evidence that says that they have the means to do so?
I mean, the point is that they acquire the means because they're not building nukes right now, so they do that post plan.
So, the order is the advantage, then the calamity, death K, the anarchy K, states, federalism, and then juries. I'll say that one more time. It's the advantage, then the calamity K, then anarchy K, states, federalism, and juries. And then it's left the doc.
Geoengineering is wrong. The tech already exists. There's no going back. That's their own Savoco code. The cross-sex proof the F can't take it back. It should have already been used already if it already exists. Climate war is also exaggerated and rely on bias. Adams et al. 18. Statistical findings are robust. They resist the systematic evidence. Simple virus company that least strongly actually are focused strongly on high conflicts. Research by how people that put peacefully evidence to the free region, inconvenient access regions in Asia, South America, Oceania receive little scholarly attention. And AI impact is wrong. Downsides are based off anecdotes. Exponential intelligence is disproven. Content concludes that ethics are benign. AI relies on limited circumstances. Can barely do simple math. That's Romero. Safeguards check. Engineers will build and stops. If it's so bad, we'll pull the plug when it gets too dangerous, which solves other offense. The disease impact is wrong. Pandemics are an essential. The most lethal pandemics aren't globally transmissible nor are sufficiently dangerous for all ages and genetic pool. The deadlier the disease, the easier it is. Contained Tracy just read overfeed. The voter evidence explicitly assumes mutations that it's not likely. Even a super pandemic that killed 90% of the population would take out the remaining 10. Would not take out the remaining 10%. That's voter. And those who now have disease are in 15. Fundamental decades, the new name is on his way. History goes on, has the birth of 0912, flu, common, warned, animal plague rise. Most scientists understand their physical and evolutionary barriers. Bioscience, airborne transmission, there's barriers preventing adaptation. There's no recorded instance of viruses that have adapted. Predictions of these epidemics have always been wrong. I'll get the war debate here. The hunt evidence is bad, only assumes non-nuclear states in Africa. Does not assume the unimaginable deterrence from nukes and economic liberalism. 2AC once again did not grapple with it. It explicitly says only Africa, but resources can only be gained more easily via commerce, not war. This moves capitalism because of war, because it's easier and more financially productive for them to just trade. That's settlement and no Russia war. Rogan 22. Putin thinks like the first time Russia's very low. Russia's Putin interest. Yet aware Russia did nuclear warhead to cause economic isolation and impact on society. Russia announced warhead against Putin rule and Paus coup. Mark the card coup. Calamity, you can see the permutation. Anarchy, you can see the permutation. Both are tested competition. I'll get condo here. We get what we did. One flex, couple countermeasures are key. Fiscal redistribution is negative. Square multifaceted testing. Half step back with offense to a team. First less peak prep advantages. Vague plans. 2 logic. Counter is unpredictable. Non-resolution rule that does the status quo, which should also remain a logical option. Arbitrary rules are worse than no rules. On the after unilaterally reach all the bounds of everyday just like displacing substance. 3. Innovation, fallback, stretch, encourage making new arguments, turning research, and now defense. Dimension martial utility. Add more accuracy, peaks, and value until it's not useful. Skew inevitable. TD speed highlighting. SB highlight for every case of reject this, but 1, there's no definition of what it is. 2, you force permutations on process counterbalance. 3, can't solve flex. And 2, he gets to choose the block. Federalism. I'll concede federalism is impossible, and the laundry list card does not have an impact that takes out their add-on. And I'll get the hedge. I'll explicitly concede the hedge is unsustainable. That troop withdrawal is imminent. That means they can't go for hedge bad because hedge is actively weakened, and China knows it. If hedge would have caused war, it would have done it at its peak rather than its decline. Juries. The economics also case because binding authority set policy on the plan to randomly select the citizen over the juries. Those are the bodies that judge implement the broad policy of the plan and carve out individual caveats. Solves at least as well as the plan. Reserves resistant industry capture. That's the root cause of tax evasion. I mean, that's the root cause of tax evasion. The social and bad evidence. They drop the democracy external means there's only a risk of that benefit is sufficient to disregard the deficit. They kind of want to revitalize democracy by promoting citizens binding influence that solves extinction from participatory governance. That stops biodiversity, climate, resource depletion, pandemic, migration, or a variety of other things. 2AC1 they say accountable is illegitimate. That's wrong. 1 net flex often be tiny. Social security modifications like healthcare, which is its own topic. They can avoid taxation at infinite angles against econ and politics. 2 arbitrariness, interest divorce from the rest are bad, and they see more than 3 education. We have a top specific African care 22. The democracy, discord, debates, or so much working conscious to make these are open questions. Force, hustle, offense, divisions. 1 action the apples commit to taking. They don't have defense, but also their interpretation was recommend counterplans, which recommend counterplans, which still has to delegate action. The intrinsic permutation, fiscal policies, and policies is vague, no definition of what it is. But first, ground deletion in the counterplan. The intrinsic perms are bad. They get rid of it. 2 perm gaming, testing reshuffle the add-on predictable function. 3 real world decision makers. Value policy based on function, not text. Function not text. 5 context words are never evaluated in a vacuum, but it's the same as perm do both, and it's perceived the same because the question has already been decided legally in advance, only giving juries binding first question authority. Solves wake up for 15. Institutional person democracy structure, however, shows in abroad. Teachers make do this sort of constitution. They give you personal legitimacy. Additions only do have closed doors. Control participatory methods by the card. Participatory methods. The competence stuff. The price card is incredibly vague. There's no impact of what it is in the first place, but expert witnesses solve. They develop expertise over time. Make sure it's not just people speculating. Delegating specific narrow responsibilities to juries allows them to develop expertise, which solves any issues with coming to opinions. Back to 2. Instances don't need extensive preparation to generate legislation. By contrast, the ability to render judgments and narrow questions rather than design policy which tries to apply public oversight, curbing elite capture, limited tax out, very little training, leaving a little information, manipulation, KOJs around private influence, balance, expertise, and popular control over a wide range of contexts. And I'll get the uncertainty stuff. Actually, first I'll get counterplan. I'll get the counterplan then the app. First should has to be. This should require certain immediacy. Summer 74. The answer is not grammar is government legal professionals should require more than desirability. Same as must immediately affect as well as the future. And so substantially a Chevron gate. So essentially, present time value impacts personal unpredictably for anything else. They ruin process counterpoints which are key on an app-biased topic that was above cross supply. I'll get the uncertainty deficit here. They say it's impossible to determine the case. First, it's capture. Randomly selected citizens are immune to political capture, which turns on their offense. And 2, signaling the process counterpoint shapes opinions better. And 19. Local expertise we get better outcomes. So we can the key better policy and understanding changing the needs of the public sector can be recently in all the process of people unpredictable policy the benefits of the success opening opportunity picked up by companies to drive institutional nudging towards regulatory outcome. Marked it outcome.
Sending this first.
9:55. federalism. Okay.
Which K?
Anarchy. Juries. Transition. Degrowth. Then assurance. Okay. Are we all good?
No.
Can you repeat the order?
Yes. Federalism. Okay. Juries. Transition. Degrowth. Then assurance. Okay.
We're good.
Alright. They've conceded that Hegemony is bad, that American encirclement is what causes Russia-China war, which is the swaying evidence. This impact turns a disadvantage because it means that when the United States gets rid of nuclear weapons, that's a good thing because that prevents war from escalating. Unsustainability doesn't take it out because only degrowth allows for a peaceful accession of power. Tony O'Farrell, 18. Peaceful change is only likely when the hegemon has confidence that change is inevitable because it lacks in military or economic capabilities. The hegemon's experience decline are likely to conclude that a transition inevitable economic growth and redress relative decline if the hegemon's leadership calculates that it lacks growth. They conclude resistance is futile or decay. They've conceded PERVCon, it's a voting issue, and it's uniquely impossible because it forces us to argue against ourselves, not just in terms of different counter plans, but different frameworks and different ethical orientations, which means that their defensive conditionality does not apply. Reject the team. Juries. They've conceded that the app solves the impact, all of the impacts on laundry list, climate change, environment, migration, all solved by degrowth, and they have no reason why the plan cannot solve it. They've also conceded the plan fosters democracy, which is the wise evidence on the federalism. They said they dropped that there's no spillover. A one-time juries will not result in more down the road, especially because juries are not unpopular, and Congress obviously wouldn't want it. No neutral answers. And they didn't really answer the argument that citizens say no. They dropped the Morelli evidence that socialism is seen as anti-American, so there's no chance it solves the case. Transition. Framing issue is that none of the evidence assumes job guarantee and taxes. It also doesn't assume our scenario, which is just an impact current to their link. Getting rid of nukes is good. There's no reason why. Collecting taxes is necessary to solve it. The first argument is unresponsive. We do not need to determine individual taxes because those will be across the board. It will be carbon taxes, income taxes that have already been established in the past. We just scale up the scale of those taxes, so there's no reason why the plan is different. They say mistakes, central planning is possible. The Mazzucato evidence indicates that it's worked in the past and that now it's different due to new technologies. The evidence is too old. They say lying. IRS catches liars all the time. They say no transition. This card does not assume taxes, which force the transition. They say gulags. It does not assume the job guarantee, which makes it look popular and increases quality of life. It does go international because they've conceded that our economies are intertwined, so it forces China to slow down, which also answers their China card. They say democracies are slow at making decisions, but it doesn't assume there's no impact to this deficit, and our scenario is just from getting rid of nuclear weapons. They say unsustainability is presumption. No, our argument is that planned degrowth is key to stability. The one they see Mazzucato evidence says it's necessary in order to maintain social stability and prevent transition wars, but unsustainability deletes the disadvantage. They read lead cards about economic growth being necessary for modernization, being necessary to assure South Korea, which means it non-uniques entirely the link as well as the impact scenario, degrowth. We access war impacts better. Competition for resources and trade tensions in the SES is what could cause Korea War, which turns to disadvantage. That's how they've conceded that China and Russia are not revisionists, no new 200 answers. Instead, they are defensive realist theory. Status quo U.S. power projection means only we have a chance at reducing conflict that's fostered outweighs on magnitude. Far Cry 17, nuclear war could send smoke into the atmosphere and cause global cooling, ozone and disruption. Nuclear winter, drop the temperatures 8, and extinction is only possible. Between the U.S. and Russia, a small war is unlikely to be the extinction of the size of arsenals. The risk of extinction is greater from conflict between the U.S. and Russia. It's just as fast as there is our scenario. Our evidence indicates that the conflict could escalate at any time because of recent arms racing. There's also impact towards the link because it means deleting nukes is good and disincentivizes North Korea from invading. Their Han in that doesn't matter because we've read other cards. The Russia defense is incorrect. It's assumed continued U.S. encirclement, and it's also denied by Ukraine, where Russia invaded Ukraine because of NATO expansion. Assurance. There's no perception impact, no card says it, and their evidence says escalation occurs after a prototype has finished. That's Sukin, which means they have to win prototype. No time frame differential, takes at least 2 years to acquire. That's Hecker dropped. No South Korea prototype first, no means, no plutonium or uranium, no location to test, no nuclear weapons facilities, no knowledge or assembly, and fielding. No evidence answers this. There's also no motive because of strong domestic opposition. That's Hecker. Even if most of the public wants it, politicians don't want it. No prototype Bennett. Reproach reasons are threats from other than nuclear prestige, nuclear and fear. The US will not defend Europe. Progressives reflect as well as citizens to live in your basis. Cost be very high, take considerable time because of uranium and enrichment plutonium reprocessing. Leave the NPT NSG eliminated 50% of power. Some stations can be devastating. China could substantial pressure. US withdrawal, lack of technical capacity. Un-123. While sophisticated on primitive bombs, it doesn't have facilities, no enrichment facilities, access to uranium. Separate only a lab scale. Difficulty of acquiring fuel already be reprocessed without bodying. Contracts to provide optimal grade. Tested more than once, finding it technically and politically acceptable status and surmountable capability. It takes several years testing. Another cost. Arms 23. SOCO is now serious developing nukes. Undernice with political, diplomatic, and economic costs. Lose a third of its accuracy. Make it difficult to justify exports to the prototype reactor. Export industry collapse of resource poor. Trade dependent country. Ill afford to avoid circulation. Impact of testing. Contributing to CT, BT, and trigger public opposition. The only scenario they can go for is US-China war because they've conceded generic defense that prototype and other countries will not happen. But getting rid of US nukes means that China has no one to go to nuclear war against, which means there's only a chance of alpha offense. International and US sanctions means no prototype. 123. China, Russia, and others adopt punitive measures. US sanctions automatically grant amendment. Mark it for that. Grant amendment.
I'm not sure those cards are in the doc.
Okay, I'll send this out.
Like all the pro. dissad, the K, federalism, juries, transition. Assurances, K, federalism, juries, transition.
The K is after federalism.
No, it's not.
K then federalism.
Yeah. Okay. Are we? Peninsula.
Peninsula has lost. The dissent majorly outweighs the nuclear umbrella collapse, causes quick proliferation and nuclear strikes out of fear, and that draws in China and other great powers, causing the entire world to go up in smoke. That Sukin and Hong, the true trier diaphragm, will be rhetorically powerful, but ultimately wrong, because the only coherent impact calculus is weighing the risk of U.S. degrowth-oriented policies, the risk that it solves their impacts against the risk that they collapse assurance. If it's more likely that they try cause extinction than to solve it, then try or die is backwards. The link is clear and uncontested by the 1AR degrowth policy. Shift away funds from crucial nuclear sources and focus is on soft power collapses of the nuclear umbrella. That's Burton and Ainsworth conceded. That means that you should evaluate the probability of the dissent holistically. If we won the strength of all of our internal links, if we win any risk of there's like South Korea proliferates, then you have to vote neg. The impact defense is functionally non-starter by considering that the 1AR concedes, China gets drawn in, so you know that war causes extinction, you know that the causes the South Korea to want to proliferate and collapse the U.S. nuclear umbrella. Do you really think that South Korea will not be able to find some kind of means to develop weapons, nuclear weaponry, if their entire U.S. assurances have been collapsed by the affirmative? They say no SOCO prolif because they don't have like plutonium. The point of the dissent is that they don't have that now, but they will develop that if in the world of the affirmative the plutonium obviously exists. There's no warrant in the 1AR for why they won't be able to acquire that, especially when they've conceded the Kim evidence that is empirically the South Korean military doctrines prove that they will proliferate in instances of extreme they will try to develop more weapons in instances of extreme stress, and they say that also answers the motive argument that because empirically they do have motive, the lack of technical capacity stuff is also answered by that. They say the only scenarios that the U.S. China war thing is basically conceded that if war happens, the U.S. will draw in China, and they say it doesn't matter because they get rid of nukes. That's wrong. That's a misinterpretation of that's a misinterpretation of the dissent. The dissent is not that they will be able to get rid of all nukes that are existing, because that they can just despawn nukes that exist in the world. They will stop the development of nukes which collapse the nuclear umbrella, because U.S. will no longer be able to assure its allies, and South Korea will have to develop its own. That means the U.S.-China war still causes extinction, and they don't have a card that the degrowth can suddenly get rid of, can suddenly reverse all the nukes that already exist. Look, any risk that when South Korea proliferates, we have better evidence on this, and that cites more empirics. You read it after the round because it's better than theirs. Okay. The theory is a non-starter. They drop from conduct that non-resolution theory is arbitrary and unpredictable. She should reject it. Allows them to lead on that ground. Any dissent they can say is bad for Afghan, especially when they concede it's an AFI topic from the jury's counterclaim. Federalism dissent. They've dropped the core argument on the concession. If hedge is bad, China would have already attacked the U.S. when the U.S. was at their strongest, the most antagonizing potential, i.e. before they started succumbing to unsustainability. The Taliaferro evidence is unresponsive. It's about how degrowth makes hedge a peaceful withdrawal peaceful, not an analysis of why countries haven't attacked the U.S. at their strongest. No add-on. We've explicitly conceded the 2AC arguments that laundry list cards have no impact and federalism fails. It takes out the terminal hedge because it's the terminal is the wise evidence which they said to reject because it was a laundry list card. The 1AR didn't do any new explanation here, or the explanation of the impacts that would get them past this laundry list argument that the 1AR made, that the 1AR conceded. The jury's counterclaim, I'm not going for it. Conceded doesn't solve the app. It's not competitive. The transition debate. vote negative on presumption, even if we lose the assurances. It's that they've conceded multiple countries internationally don't follow onto the plan. China, India, Japan, etc. All of them hate degrowth and will not care about the tax or the job guarantee, especially when they've agreed that the taxes would be so devastating to the economy that they would immediately collapse them all. That means that no countries adopt degrowth. No country they won't be able to solve climate change. They won't be climate change because other countries still admit they won't be able to solve the other impact, the war stuff, because those are still following the growth imperative. That China loves economic growth. They're trying to grow their economy now. They won't give it up just because the U.S. implemented a job guarantee policy. They say we don't assume international interdependence globally. That does not matter when that definitely if we vote on that argument, then that definitely means presumption, because the economic interdependence means that all companies that all the world the economies collapse, and that means that as per their the Lockman evidence in the 1AC cross-ex proofs that evidence just says that if the U.S. sneezes, then other countries will also collapse, and that means that their economies are not going through a planned transition even post-AF. So that means that means unsustainability would mean global transition inevitably, which takes out the AF, not the DISAD, because the DISAD is based off degrowth policy, not necessarily degrowing the economy itself or eliminating the growth imperative. degrowth. Transition. Federalism. Assurance. Is everyone good? Alright.
They've considered that only US-Russia war causes extinction, which means that it is try or die off because you know that extinction is inevitable in the status quo. They've considered the far core evidence, which says that only US and Russia have nuke arsenals large enough to cause a nuclear winter that can end humanity. They have no evidence to the contrary that says a US-China or a no-co-South Korea war could cause extinction. They have no evidence that speaks about Russia's involvement in the war, which means that you can assume that Russia does not get involved. Only we have a scenario about Russia. They've considered a how evidence, which says that continued growth is bad because the US clings to power and it competes with markets in Europe and Asia, which causes wars with Russia and China because of market expansion and economic dominance. This causes a short-term nuclear war with Russia. It means that there's no time frame differential between the scenarios because the Howe evidence as well as the Foster and the Swain evidence are from 2022 and 2023 and say that escalation is likely now. This means that we access their impact. You have straight turns of disadvantage. The Howe, Foster, and Swain evidence are all about China and Russia, and they say that China and Russia are defensive realist powers, which they've conceded, and they will only act aggressively if the United States continues to expand its military arsenal. When the United States draws down its military per their link evidence, it means that there's no chance that China gets drawn into the North Korean war because China will no longer have geopolitical intentions in that region since they're defensive realists, and they will no longer escalate since the United States is no longer getting involved. This means that there's no aggression from adversaries. It means that South Korean proliferation becomes less likely since there's no motivation for them to do so. And all of that just means that it's unlikely that China gets drawn in and there's no chance of China nuclear war. Transition. All of the transition defense they had was about modeling, but our argument is that US alone solves, because as long as the United States degrows its economy, there's no chance that they can get involved in Asia and Europe. That means that there's no chance of war with Russia, so we solve the entirety of our advantage. I do not have to answer any of the arguments, because even if China pursues growth, that does not answer our Russia argument, and our argument is and they've considered that China is defensive realist, so even if they pursue growth, as long as the United States degrows, which they've considered was solved because of high taxes and job guarantee, that's more than sufficient to solve.
Answer the presumption argument.
What was that?
That unsustainability.
The presumption argument does not make sense because our argument is that the United States will have to cling to power, and even if the global economy will collapse at some point, that the United States, as long as it tries to maintain growth and tries to get into markets and try to expand, that still causes the impact. The argument is that we have to shift away entirely from markets, not just that a recession is able to solve our scenario. That's the how evidence. Federalism. The thumpers on the hedge term do not apply to the case because we've had more recent evidence that says that Ukraine is a brink, that Taiwan is a brink, and a war will happen now, which means that war with Russia is distinct from all of that. It was the answer in the 1AR, the assurance to that. At the top, no time frame differential. They've considered that the disadvantage might even be slower than the affirmative because they've considered that proliferation takes at least 2 years, and there's no perception impact because there's no coherent explanation for why North Korea would invade South Korea until they know that South Korea has the bomb. They've extended that proliferation does not occur. They've considered way too many cards to go for this. They've considered the Bennett evidence, which says that because of high cost, considerable time, it means that South Korea is unable to acquire the bomb. Additionally, they'll have to leave the NPT, which means that they'll lose 30% of the electricity power they have now, which means that there's no motivation for it because they rely on NPT tech support. Specifically, there's no capacity and no means whatsoever. No one will trade them the physical materials. That's the Arndt evidence. The Arndt and the Bennett, as well as the other pieces of defense, also explain. The Einhorn piece of evidence explains why they have no plutonium, they have no uranium, there's nowhere to test it. They would violate the CPTPP. There will be sanctions placed on them. They have no one to trade to acquire plutonium and uranium, and there's no evidence that they have plutonium in their country, which means that you know that they cannot acquire bombs whatsoever. There's also no motivation because they'll be forced to stop with sanctions. Korea relies heavily on trade, and if half of their GDP goes away, that means that it will be impossible for them to proliferate, and it will be impossible for them to acquire the materials to go nuclear. They say that they'll find some way to get means, but some way to get the materials that's rhetorically powerful, but there's no evidence that actually supports that. Only we've produced evidence from highly qualified researchers that says that they have zero plutonium and that trading partners will not give them any uranium because they know that they do not want their allies to proliferate. They said that they'll get uranium from somewhere, but again, they do not have uranium at all, and they cannot trade for it because our evidence answers the argument. They say that empirics prove, but empirically they have not proliferated, and they have never done so. The evidence is only about South Korean military doctrine. It does not say that they have the means to do so. It does not say they can acquire plutonium and uranium, which are necessary for proliferation, and it just does not answer our arguments. Lastly, they made an argument about US drawing, but US drawing is very unlikely. Even if they are drawn in, it still does not draw in Russia, which means that it does not cause extinction. Extinction outweighs because you only die once, it's irreversible, and it forecloses all possible values. So even if we cause a short-term, limited nuclear war, you should still vote affirmative for the chance that we can solve US-Russia war.